If you're struggling to get AI to output content that doesn't sound AI or simply boring and generic, this video will help. I will share my 3-step process for getting AI output that not only sounds human, but sounds just like you. Hi, my name's Ivan, and I've spent the last 15 years shipping software, from $6.5 billion enterprises to Silicon Valley startups. Lately, I help businesses across multiple industries implement AI transformation, and this includes industries like recruitment, brokerage, real estate, e-commerce, and more. So let's get into the video. So the process I'm going to describe here can be applied to anything. I typically use it in my automations when I'm building workflows typically in N8N that generate content of different types, but it can really be used even if you're simply using your ChatGPT directly in the browser or with any other tool. So for this whole example, what I'm going to do is I'm taking one person that's public. So this is Steven from Diary of a CEO. I'm going to take his content from LinkedIn, and we're going to use that to get AI to output something that sounds more like him. So for the example, I'm taking the episode he did with Dr. Anna Lemke, where they talk about motivation, dopamine, and so on. And this is the post he made on that episode. So dopamine expert and Stanford psychiatrist, Dr. Anna Lemke, explained something to me about motivation that rewired my brain. And so he goes on and talks a little bit about what she talked about, what she taught him, and so on. So that's the post. Now, in order to get AI to generate something like this, we would need to give it some kind of information. So what I was doing here is I've just opened this episode on YouTube, and then I'm going to take that URL and I'm just going to put it into a tool that will give me the transcript of the video. So I'm going to paste it here, get the video transcript. Now, once I've got this, I'm going to take this whole thing and I'm going to put it into the AI, and I will ask it to give me a summary. So I'm going to go in here and I will say, here is my transcript, and I will say, write me a short, maybe 3 to 4 paragraph summary of the provided transcript. Okay. So out of this, I'm just doing this so that I don't have to paste the whole huge text, because this is like, I think 70,000 tokens. And I just want something that I can then feed into AI to give me the post. So this part is less important, and I'm just going to go and copy this so that I have it. I'm just going to store it, and I'm going to be using it later. So now I'm going to take that transcript and I'm just going to paste it into ChatGPT, and I'm going to ask it to generate the LinkedIn post for me. So I will say, based on this content, generate an engaging viral LinkedIn post that hooks my readers. And well, we'll just do that and paste it. Now, the issue with doing something like this is that AI models, because they don't have context, essentially, when you come and ask it to do something and somebody else comes and asks it to do something, it would be the same as if everybody in the world went to the exact same writer and told them, write me something. You are essentially asking the same model as everybody else to do the same thing as everybody else. And that's why the result is so predictable and so AI-like. And so this is the kind of output we're getting. Stop chasing dopamine, start building it. Here's the thing most of us miss. So it uses these things that it's found, that it's learned from social media, and it generates something that's, it's not terrible, but it is very AI-like. So in order to make this better, the way I do it is I will ask the AI to analyze the writing of the person I'm trying to generate content for, and extract that into a set of instructions that can then be fed into another AI, into another LLM, in order to generate very similar writing. So this is kind of like going off the top of my head, but the idea is here. And the way you do it is, obviously there's always some tweaking. So these kinds of systems are not something you build once and then forget about it. I generally go back and I tweak it multiple times in order to get it as close as possible to the, real human that we're trying to generate content for. And so what I would do here is I would say something like, um, you are an expert language analyst, whatever that means. And then I will say, your goal is to generate an LLM prompt for me, um, based on the content provided below, that will enable an LLM to create content as close to it as possible. Please analyze the language, style, voice, etc., to get the prompt as precise as possible. So this is kind of the starting prompt I will use. And then I will go to LinkedIn and I will take a few of these posts and they'll just copy them in. So I will say, based on the content provided below. Okay, so post one. Actually, I will say based on the LinkedIn posts provided below. Okay, so we're going to have post one, post two, and how many of these you use. Generally more is better, but there is also diminishing returns here. So I will say for this demo, I'm just going to use something like maybe 5 to 7. If I was actually building a real system for someone, I would probably use a bit more, maybe 10 to 15. You don't need too many, but having different examples is useful. Okay, so a lot of these are, okay, I'm actually going to skip this one because that's what we're asking it to generate. So I don't want that to be part of its training. So we're going to do another one here. Post 5. So these are mostly from conversations. If you wanted it to be really good at generating other types of content, you would want to feed in more of those as well. So I will say this is it for now, and let's see what it comes back with. So it should come back with some kind of LLM prompt, and that's something we're going to use in a new chat without all of this context, and try to get it to write a post for us, right? So we're going to use something very similar to what we did before, but now we're going to use this prompt as kind of like the system prompt, really, for it. So this is ready to copy and paste. So we're just going to use this, copy it, and I'm going to store it again just so that we can refer to it later. Okay, so now I'm going to open a new chat, and this is the prompt. And I will say, now please generate a LinkedIn post based on the following transcript summary. Okay, and now I'm going to go here and let's see what we get out. So the first step here was taking a bunch of these, a bunch of examples, distilling that into some kind of a style guide, really, for the style that this person writes in. And so the output we get is something that sounds, I think, a lot more similar to whoever we're trying to emulate. So pleasure and pain run on the same circuit as the problem and the opportunity, if I'm being 100% honest. So this, in my, like, from what I've heard and read from Stephen, this does, get us a little bit closer to the way he actually writes. Okay, so that was the first step. The second step I will do is, in order, even though we've now got a style guide I find it's still quite helpful to still give it examples. So I'm going to start a new chat, and then I will take this same thing. I will put that in here, and then I will say, here are a couple of examples of my posts. And I'll say example one. And then we're just going to copy the a couple of examples from here. So let's say I'll take one of these. Example two. And let's say take this one. Of course, it pressed under my mouse pad a bit too hard. Okay, let's copy this. Example two. And now I'll say, now please generate a LinkedIn post based on the following transcript summary. Okay, so now we can take the summary again, and let's see what it comes up with now. All right, so now we have something that I think is getting us even closer, because what it's doing is now we're using a little bit more lists, and it uses things like the language that's a lot more similar. What if your motivation problem is actually a dopamine problem, if I'm being 100% honest? So like, this is a lot more of these words and formatting and similar to the person you're trying to emulate. So that was the step two. And then the step three for me would be to actually go and tweak this. So this is something that it's a little bit hard to do here on kind of like a live recording. But what I would do is I would ask the person to take this and rewrite it. So obviously that's a little bit more effort, but if we do that just a few times, and then you provide that to AI again, this is what was generated, this is what we are expecting, you give it a lot stronger signal in terms of what to avoid, what to, what are the good things to sort of like try to strive for. And that's without you having to specifically go and say, okay, and define in words how to change the language and the structure and the voice. So you would give it a couple of examples and say, this is what was generated, this is what we want, find the differences. You can either give it the original style prompt and say update the style prompt so that it includes these differences, or you can even include one or two of these as examples in your prompt when you're trying to generate content. So that's the idea. And then finally, as a small bonus, there will sometimes be things that it will still put into the content that you don't want, that are maybe not and are not going to come out of analyzing your content. So for example, in my writing, I don't like emojis, and I will generally say, don't use emojis. Another thing that's usually a giveaway for AI is this em dash, because people don't really write that way. If you use a word processor or something, it might insert it, for you. But if you're just writing, on your social media directly, you often don't get that. And so there are examples like this where you then go and say, okay, well, specifically, don't do this, strive for that, and so on. And so I guess the main points here are, you first need to give it enough context, enough information, so that it's different enough from what everybody else is doing. And by different enough is simply because the content you're feeding it is from this particular person and not the whole of internet, which is the LLM's training data. So by doing that, you are getting output that's going to be slightly different than from what everybody else is getting when they just say, write me a LinkedIn post. especially if the content you're creating is not very specific to you. So if you're generating content that's simply, about things that are happening or about some general knowledge or whatever it is, then you're always going to get very similar output as everybody else, unless you kind of steer the LLM in the direction you want it to go, and that's by using your own language, using the examples, and so on. And one other thing that I would do for, especially if it's business content, is I will give it context that is not just posts, but information about the business. So it might be things like, their values, how they do business, maybe, a presentation about them, or however it is that they see themselves, and some additional material about them, so that the AI gets the context, and if you want, a little bit of a feeling for who it's writing for. And that way you're going to get a lot better results. So I hope that's helpful. And if you would like me to help you with your AI transformation in your business, feel free to book a free discovery call that's in the description below, and we can chat about how that would look like in your business. Thanks, and until next time.